After rejecting pleasure, Ecclesiastes wonders, I see that there's nothing better for a person than to enjoy their work, because that is their lot. Don't we all think our work should be satisfying? And most of us are fortunate to have jobs that give some satisfaction. I'm among the most fortunate people in the world. I get a job that's defined as good for the world itself. Even when I'm doing it poorly, I'm doing some good to someone somewhere. But that's not true for everyone. And we spend half our lives at work. Of course, we can hope that some of our work makes a difference. But then we think for a moment, what about those who work just to stay alive? There is no lasting value for those who are just trying to stay alive. Ecclesiastes then turns to another source of hope. He writes, "Two are better than one, for they have a good reward for their toil. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Again, if two lie together, they are warm, but how can one be warm alone?" He's talking about companionship. I use this reading in weddings all the time. Company, affection, love. That's a reason to hope. Marriage and family. How many of you look forward to a retirement when you could spend it with your grandchildren or with your family or your friends? To care for someone and be cared for is perhaps the best thing in life, something really worth hoping for. But again, who has not felt the sting of rejection or the loss of death? Okay, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all, but heartbreak is among the most painful moments in life. It seems, upon reflection, that we cannot find hope in truth alone, nor in pleasure alone, nor in work alone, nor even in love alone. And I would say for those who are religiously devout, even in God or Jesus alone. And the key word here is alone. My third message is very simple. Hope is not found in something out there. Yes, I know the story of the pearl of great price, that the merchant sold everything to have the one pearl, but you can be sure the pearl market went bust at least once in his life, and suddenly it was worthless. Wisdom says we should hope in all things that nourish us, our families, our work, our bodies, our faith. Let's call it diversifying your spiritual investment portfolio. That sounds glib. But you know, I speak truly that we look to many things to give us a sense of hope, because on a given day when our spouse doesn't like us, we can take pleasure in another way, maybe in a drink with a friend. Maybe our work is feeling grim, but at least our children love us. And even on desperate days, we can look to our faith to sustain us. We find hope in many places. Psychologist Erik Erikson said, "The richest and fullest lives attempt to achieve an inner balance between work, love, and play." And you know that he speaks the truth. But here, though, I want to give you something in addition to life advice. I could easily say, now go out and make sure you mow your lawn, but also kiss your spouse and do your work and have a beer. That would satisfy all those things, but you still wouldn't feel that transcendent hope. I mean, the hope that says not only is my life worth living, but life itself is valuable. That kind of hope comes from unexpected places. The places you don't go to get hope, but they come at you over the horizon without warning. And now we'll talk about Peter's vision in the book of Acts. It's my favorite story. Remember, a canopy falls out of heaven in this vision, full of all sorts of creepy, crawly things, reptiles and birds of prey, things that in kosher terms are called treif, unacceptable. Think of an animal you'd never eat. It was in the canopy, like a bug or a lizard. And God's voice says, "Peter, kill, eat." And Peter says, "Oh, no, that's just disgusting, Lord." And they are, from a human point of view, kind of disgusting creatures, although they may all taste like chicken. And the lesson of the story is that even things you don't like, that you reject, that you won't be in the company of, even those things have value. Our spiritual challenge is to be open to the value that they bring us when we're not looking for it, because there is where transcendent hope comes from. As winter wore on and I struggled more and more, shaking my fist at the capricious sky, that didn't do me a bit of good. No matter how angry I got that winter lingered, I did not succeed in my anger at making spring come an hour earlier. I love my job. I truly do. It's the best job I've ever had. I am jealous if anyone else wants it. But I also looked forward for a little sabbatical time to take a deep breath, and I had to cancel that because work can sometimes intervene. And now I have to ask myself, can I find renewal in the work, not away from it? And the toughest one for me, there's a fellow who walks past my house every day. He's from the community that Andy serves down there in Hartside. I know that because he hasn't bathed for a really, really long time. And he talks to himself in a really uncomfortable way. And even though this is a sermon, I got to tell you, his pants have the stain of his own urine on them. And I'm telling myself, he's in the canopy too. How am I going to find hope in this guy? I don't know. Last week, the Grand River was at full flood. When I got home from church, I turned on the TV, and there was our mayor, blessed be he, asking for volunteers to fill sandbags. And the sun was out, and so I said, let's go down. So I walked on down to 201 Market Street to pitch in. And you know what filling sandbags is? It's what we used to call when I was a kid being a ditch digger, which is about the lowliest form of work you could do. You stuck your shovel in the dirt and you moved the dirt from place to place. And that's what I did for 2 hours. I joined one church group, and when they left, I joined the Hasidic Jews. There's a picture, I got to tell you. Bunch of guys in yarmulkes and long beards digging sand. And they put them in bags, and their female relatives, daughters and wives, would tie them up. And then my job was to carry the bags to the pallets that would then be hoisted onto trucks. I estimate I carried between 100 and 250-pound bags in 2 hours. Do the math. I was sore. If I had to do it every day, it would be onerous. It would be dreadful. It would be tedious. It would have no meaning. And yet, I felt it was labor worth doing. I derived hope from it because these sandbags would go next to a house or a business and keep it from being flooded. In other words, I brought the hope to the task rather than getting hope from the task. Do you see where I just went? That, like it or not, the transcendent hope almost always comes from us as we encounter the thing we do not wish to meet. The hope for the world comes when we have to deal with the person with the stained pants, or the sandbags, or the realities of life that we do not like, that are in the canopy. When we have to deal with that, we have to bring hope to it. And the moment we bring hope to it, we bless it with hope, and the hope becomes real to us in a new way. A single crocus in the snow can be more beautiful than a garden full of daffodils because it dares to poke through the snow and survive. One kind word you will say in coffee hour later is better than this entire sermon 10 times over if it reaches the right person. And a dreary chore like filling sandbags can save a house. True hope arrives from where we least expect it, ourselves. It comes in the insistence of flowers, the persistence of snow, the immediate hopes dashed, even neighbors who literally stink on the foot. And they call forth our own hope from our own doubting mouths, our own equivocating hands, our own terrified hearts. When we dare to hope in what is not hopeful, when we give it hope even when it isn't worth it, that's when hope bursts into being. The theologian Paul Tillich spoke of a God behind God, that the image we have is not real. In fact, it's idolatrous. But there's something behind that that is ultimately real, and we cannot name it or know it, but we can sense its presence in the universe. I believe in that. I also am here to deliver you the message of the hope beneath hope. The willingness to hope before there is a reason to hope. That is where our spirits dwell, in the hope beneath hope, without a reason, without good cause, without any promise of good outcomes. The hope beneath hope, that's where our spirits dwell, friends. And as another apostle put it, it is where we live and move and have our being. I'm done. Amen.